Philip Jenkins grips his fighter's controls as his Mark 7 battle armor crackles to life, neural interface pulsing with an unexpected malfunction. The space around him erupts in chaos as Earth's United Defense Force clashes with the Betazoid Armada. Streaks of energy weapons crisscross the void, punctuated by explosions of disabled craft. As Philip engages the enemy, he notices something odd. The Betazoid ships nearest him begin to fly erratically, their formations breaking apart. His armor emits an unusual frequency, and he realizes it's affecting the alien pilots. A transmission crackles through his comms, filled with heavy breathing and barely coherent words. "Human, your signal. So arousing," pants a female Betazoid voice. "Can't focus." Philip's eyes widen as he comprehends the situation. His malfunctioning armor is stimulating the pleasure centers of nearby Betazoid females, causing intense arousal and disrupting their combat effectiveness. He watches as a sleek Betazoid fighter spirals past, its pilot visibly flustered. The battle rages on, Earth's forces pressing their sudden advantage. Philip uses his armor's unintended effect to sow chaos among the Betazoid fleet, leading strafing runs that leave enemy ships disorganized and vulnerable. Yet as he turns for another pass, warning klaxons blare in his cockpit. A massive Betazoid capital ship looms ahead, its weapons locking onto Philip's fighter. Admiral Zorn, the Betazoid commander, has detected the anomalous signals and identified their source. Energy beams lance out, narrowly missing Philip as he barrel rolls to evade. "Jenkins, return to base immediately," crackles a stern voice from Luna Command. "We're detecting unusual readings from your armor. Report for analysis." Philip hesitates, torn between following orders and pressing his tactical advantage. The fate of Earth could hinge on his decision. As he weighs his options, a squad of Betazoid interceptors led by Cora, the affected pilot from earlier, moves to cut off his escape route. "Surrender, human," Cora transmits, her voice a mix of military threat and suggestive undertone. "We'll treat you very well." Philip's mind races. He could return to base as ordered, potentially losing this unexpected edge in the war. Or he could press on, using his armor's effect to possibly end the conflict, but at great personal risk. The ethical implications of exploiting the Betazoid's weakness gnaw at him. As energy blasts from the capital ship strafe his fighter, Philip makes his choice. He banks hard, accelerating towards the Betazoid interceptor squad. Cora's ship wobbles in his targeting reticle as the armor's effect intensifies. "Sorry, ladies," Philip mutters, charging his weapons. "It's not you, it's me." The space around him lights up with weapons fire as Philip plunges into the heart of the Betazoid formation. Earth's future hangs in the balance, dependent on one soldier's unconventional armor and the bizarre advantage it provides against an army of aroused yet still dangerous alien warriors. Philip's fighter streaked through the chaos of battle, his mind made up. He opened a channel to Luna Command. "Negative on return to base. I'm pressing the advantage." Without waiting for a response, he cut the transmission and accelerated towards the heart of the Betazoid fleet. His armor's neural interface pulsed with increasing intensity, and he gritted his teeth against the discomfort. As he approached, the effect on the Betazoid ships became even more pronounced. Fighters spun wildly, their pilots overcome with uncontrollable arousal. Larger vessels drifted out of formation, their crews struggling to maintain control. Admiral Zorn's voice boomed over the comms, tinged with desperation. "All female crew members, relieve yourselves of duty immediately. This is not a drill." Philip watched as the Betazoid fleet's coordinated assault crumbled into disarray. He pushed his fighter to its limits, dodging erratic energy blasts and spinning ships. Suddenly, a sleek Betazoid interceptor matched his every move. It was Cora, her exceptional piloting skills, allowing her to keep pace despite the armor's effects. Her voice crackled through his comms, breathless and urgent. "Human, Philip, I need to speak with you. I have vital information about our invasion plans. Please, meet me at the abandoned station in Sector 9. Philip's tactical display highlighted the station she mentioned. It was a risky move, but the potential intelligence could be game-changing. He weighed his options as his armor's power supply began to fluctuate dangerously. Warning lights flashed across his cockpit, The neural interface was overloading, threatening to leave him defenseless in the middle of the battlefield. He had to act fast. Making a split-second decision, Philip banked hard towards the abandoned station. He quickly encrypted a message to General Stone, explaining his plan and the nature of his armor's effect on the betazoids. As he approached the station, he noticed Cora's ship becoming increasingly erratic. She narrowly avoided colliding with the structure several times as she attempted to dock. Philip maneuvered his fighter into the station's hangar, the armor's effect intensifying with proximity. He could hear Cora's ragged breathing over the comms as she finally managed to land her interceptor. With a hiss, Philip's cockpit opened. He stepped out, his armor crackling with energy. Across the hangar, Cora emerged from her ship. Even through her flight suit, Philip could see her trembling. "Stay back," he warned, holding up a hand. "My armor's effect seems to increase with proximity." Cora nodded, her eyes wide and pupils dilated. I can handle it. The information I have is too important." As they cautiously approached each other, Philip's armor began to emit an alarming whine. The power fluctuations were getting worse. He had to work fast. "Tell me about the invasion plans," Philip said, trying to keep his voice steady despite the growing discomfort from his malfunctioning suit. Cora took a deep breath, visibly struggling to focus. "Our fleet, it's just a diversion. The real invasion force is coming from—" Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Security feeds flickered to life, showing a Betazoid Special Forces team breaching an airlock. "They've found us," Cora gasped, her expression a mix of fear and unwanted arousal. Philip's mind raced. He was trapped on an abandoned station with a malfunctioning suit, an aroused alien who might be an ally or enemy, and a team of Betazoid commandos closing in. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, dependent on the information Cora possessed and his ability to escape this precarious situation. As footsteps echoed down the corridor, Philip made a quick decision. He grabbed Cora's arm, ignoring her sharp intake of breath at the contact, and pulled her behind a stack of old cargo containers. "We need to find another way out of here," he whispered, scanning the hangar for escape routes. Cora nodded, her eyes darting between Philip and the hangar entrance. "There's a maintenance shaft that leads to the lower levels. We might be able to reach the emergency escape pods from there." The sound of boots on metal grew louder. Philip's armor continued to pulse erratically, its effect on Cora evident in her flushed face and trembling hands. He knew they had only moments before the Betazoid team discovered them. "Lead the way," Philip said, readying his weapon. "And Cora, I need you to focus. Earth's survival might depend on what you know." With a determined nod, Cora turned and sprinted towards a hidden panel in the hangar wall. Philip followed close behind, his armor sparking and his mind racing with the implications of what was to come. As they slipped into the maintenance shaft, the first of the Betazoid commandos burst into the hangar, weapons raised and eyes scanning for their elusive quarry. Philip and Cora crept through the dimly lit maintenance shaft, their breathing echoing off the metal walls. The distant sound of the Betazoid commandos searching the hangar spurred them on, adrenaline masking the growing discomfort from Philip's malfunctioning armor. As they emerged into a corridor, emergency lights cast an eerie red glow over their faces. Cora's alien features were accentuated in the low light, her purple-tinged skin glistening with perspiration. Philip's armor continued to emit its disruptive signals, causing Cora to stumble. He caught her arm, steadying her. "Are you all right?" Cora's large, almond-shaped eyes locked onto his. I'm fine. It's just—" She trailed off, her gaze darting to his hand on her arm. The physical contact amplified the armor's effect, sending a visible shudder through Cora's body. In that moment of vulnerability, her carefully maintained facade cracked. "Philip, there's something you need to know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not just a pilot. I'm a high-ranking intelligence officer in the Betazoid fleet." Philip tensed, his hand instinctively moving towards his weapon. Cora quickly continued, "But I've been questioning the ethics of this invasion. What we're doing, it's wrong." Before Philip could respond, a loud clang echoed through the station. They exchanged a look of alarm and hurried towards the command center. As they worked to access the station's systems, the air between them grew thick with tension. Philip's armor pulsed erratically, each wave sending jolts of unwanted pleasure through Cora. She gritted her teeth, fighting to maintain her focus on the task at hand. "There," Cora said, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. "I've accessed the encrypted Betazoid communication channels. We can—" Her words were cut short as the command center doors exploded inward. Commander Krax and his team of male Betazoid special forces burst through the smoke, weapons raised. "Step away from the console, traitor!" Krax snarled at Cora, his scarred face twisted in a grimace. Philip reacted instantly, diving behind a control panel as energy blasts scorched the air. Cora rolled to the side, drawing her own weapon and returning fire. The command center erupted into chaos. Philip's armor continued to affect Cora, but now it seemed to enhance her reflexes and accuracy. She moved with preternatural grace, each shot finding its mark with deadly precision. As the firefight intensified, a stray blast struck Philip's armor. Sparks erupted from the damaged section, and the neural signals began to fluctuate wildly. The effect on the Betazoid forces was immediate and unpredictable. Some of Krax's men doubled over, overcome by waves of pleasure. Others roared in rage, their aggression heightened to dangerous levels. Krax himself staggered, his face contorting as he fought against the armor's influence. Seizing the moment of confusion, Philip made a split-second decision. He detached a portion of his armor's outer plating and tossed it to Cora. "Put it on!" he shouted over the din of battle. Cora caught the piece, hesitating only for a moment before attaching it to her flight suit. As soon as it connected, a surge of energy passed between them. Philip gasped as his mind was suddenly flooded with alien sensations and fragmented memories. Their eyes met across the chaos of the command center, a wordless understanding passing between them. Without speaking, they moved in perfect synchronization, covering each other's blind spots and anticipating each other's moves. As they fought, flashes of Cora's life flickered through Philip's mind. He saw her childhood on a distant world, felt her pride at rising through the ranks of the Betazoid military, and experienced her growing doubt about the invasion of Earth. In turn, Cora glimpsed Philip's memories, his training, his fierce loyalty to Earth, and the weight of responsibility he carried as a defender of humanity. Their shared neural connection deepened with each passing moment, blurring the lines between their individual identities. Philip found himself instinctively understanding Betazoid technology, while Cora's movements incorporated human combat techniques she had never learned. As they gained the upper hand against Krax's team, Philip's comm unit crackled to life. General Stone's voice cut through the sounds of battle. "Jenkins, do you copy? We need that intel now. The fleet is in position to launch a major offensive against the Betazoid armada. Without that data, we're flying blind. You have 10 minutes to transmit, or we're launching anyway. The future of Earth depends on this, soldier." Philip's finger hovered over the comm unit, torn between his duty to Earth and the newfound connection with Cora. He could feel her conflict mirroring his own, their shared consciousness grappling with the weight of the decision before them. Across the room, Commander Krax struggled to his feet, his eyes burning with hatred as he raised his weapon for a final assault. The countdown to Earth's offensive ticked away in Philip's mind, each second bringing humanity closer to a potentially devastating battle. In that moment, with alarms blaring and the fate of two species hanging in the balance, Philip and Cora stood at the center of the storm. Their bodies battle-worn, their minds inextricably linked. They faced a choice that would shape the course of the war and the future of human Betazoid relations. Philip's hand moved towards the data terminal, his decision crystallizing. But as his fingers touched the interface, a new wave of memories, Cora's memories, washed over him, offering a glimpse of an option he hadn't considered. The flood of alien memories offered a new perspective, one that challenged everything Philip thought he knew about the conflict. In that instant, Philip made a decision that would alter the course of the war. Instead of transmitting the intelligence to General Stone, he turned to Cora, his eyes locking with hers in a moment of shared understanding. "We need to end this," Philip said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not through destruction, but diplomacy." Cora nodded, relief washing over her features. "Yes, but how? We're out of time, and Krax—" As if on cue, Commander Krax lunged forward, his weapon raised. Philip and Cora moved in perfect synchronization, their movements fluid and precise. Philip ducked low, sweeping Krax's legs out from under him, while Cora disarmed the commander with a swift strike to his wrist. The rest of Krax's team, still reeling from the effects of Philip's malfunctioning armor, put up little resistance. Within moments, Philip and Cora had subdued the entire Betazoid squad, securing them in the station's holding cells. "That was incredible," Cora breathed, her eyes wide with amazement. Philip nodded, equally stunned by their seamless teamwork. "It's the neural link. We're operating as one." With the immediate threat neutralized, they raced back to the command center. Philip's fingers flew over the console, his mind working in tandem with Cora's to process the vast amount of data stored in the station's banks. As they sifted through the information, shocking revelations came to light. The Betazoid invasion wasn't driven by conquest or hatred, but by desperation. Their homeworld was facing a severe resource shortage, pushing their entire species to the brink of collapse. "This changes everything," Cora murmured, her voice thick with emotion. Philip's comm unit crackled to life once more, General Stone's voice cutting through the silence. "Jenkins, where's that intel? We're about to launch the offensive." Philip took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he was about to do. "General, belay that order. I have critical information that could end this war without further bloodshed." There was a pause on the other end, then Stone's voice returned, tight with tension. "Explain yourself, soldier." As Philip outlined their discoveries and proposed a diplomatic solution, he could sense the general's skepticism. But as he continued, laying out the potential for a peaceful resolution, Stone's tone shifted. "It's a hell of a risk, Jenkins," Stone said finally. "But if there's even a chance to end this war without more casualties, very well. You have my authorization to proceed. But be warned, if this goes south, the consequences will be on your head." "Understood, sir," Philip replied, relief flooding through him. With time running short, Philip and Cora sprinted to their fighters. As they prepared for launch, Philip noticed Cora attaching the piece of his armor to her flight suit. "We'll need the neural link," she explained, her eyes meeting his. "It's our best chance at convincing Admiral Zorn." Philip nodded, understanding the risks they were both taking. As they launched from the station, he felt the familiar surge of the neural connection intensifying. Memories, thoughts, and emotions flowed between them, strengthening their bond with each passing moment. As they approached the Betazoid fleet, warning signals began blaring in Philip's cockpit. The strain of maintaining the intense neural link was pushing his armor systems to the breaking point. "Philip, your armor?" Cora's voice came through the comm, imbued with concern. "I know," he grunted, fighting to maintain control of his fighter. "We have to keep going. It's our only chance." As they neared Admiral Zorn's flagship, Cora closed her eyes, concentrating. Through their link, Philip could feel her gathering her telepathic abilities, amplified by the neural connection. Suddenly, a wave of emotion and understanding washed over him, so powerful it nearly overwhelmed his senses. He realized with a start that Cora was broadcasting their shared experiences to the entire Betazoid fleet. The effect was immediate and profound. Betazoid ships began powering down their weapon systems, their crews caught in the throes of the psychic event. Even Admiral Zorn's flagship seemed to hesitate, its imposing form suddenly less threatening. As they approached the docking bay of Zorn's ship, Philip's armor emitted a series of alarming beeps. The power core was reaching critical levels. He had a choice to make: sever the link with Cora to save himself, or maintain it at the risk of his own life. In that moment, Philip knew there was no real choice at all. The fate of two species hung in the balance. He would see this through, whatever the cost. As their fighters touched down in the Betazoid hangar, Philip and Cora emerged, their minds still linked, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them on the bridge of the alien vessel. The next few moments would determine whether their audacious gambit would result in peace or plunge both species into a war that could destroy them all. As their fighters touched down in the Betazoid hangar, Philip and Cora emerged, their minds still linked, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them on the bridge of the alien vessel. The next few moments would determine whether their audacious gambit would result in peace or plunge both species into a war that could destroy them both. They made their way through the corridors of the massive ship, the neural link between them humming with shared anticipation and commitment. As they approached the bridge, Philip felt a surge of alien emotions coursing through him, a mixture of fear, curiosity, and confusion emanating from the Betazoid crew members they passed. The doors to the bridge slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a scene of controlled chaos. Immediately, they found themselves surrounded by agitated Betazoid crew members, their purple skin flushed with varying shades of emotion. The mental link between Philip and Cora intensified, broadcasting a wave of shared human Betazoid experiences throughout the ship. At the center of the bridge stood Admiral Zorn, a tall, imposing figure with deep purple skin and piercing silver eyes. He approached them with measured steps, his gaze flickering between Philip and Cora with a mix of curiosity and caution. "You've caused quite a stir, humans," Zorn said, his voice deep and resonant. "I assume you have a good reason for this intrusion." Before Philip could respond, he felt a sharp spike of pain in his head. His armor emitted a series of alarming beeps, and he staggered slightly. Cora steadied him, her touch sending a jolt of shared sensation through their link. "Admiral," Cora began, her voice strained but clear, "we've discovered information that could end this conflict without further bloodshed, but we need to act quickly." As Cora spoke, Philip noticed a stocky Betazoid with a scarred face watching them from the far side of the bridge. The alien's cold eyes narrowed as he whispered urgently to a group of crew members around him. Suddenly, Philip's armor malfunctioned again, sending out a burst of neural signals. The effect on the Betazoid crew was immediate and chaotic. Some doubled over, gasping in unexpected pleasure, while others became visibly agitated, their movements jerky and aggressive. Admiral Zorn stumbled, clearly affected by the surge. When he straightened, his silver eyes seemed to glow with a new understanding. "This connection you share, it's unlike anything I've experienced." "It's the key to peace, Admiral," Philip said, fighting through the discomfort of his malfunctioning armor. "We can show you the truth about our species, and yours." As Zorn nodded, considering their words, the scarred Betazoid Philip had noticed earlier stepped forward. "Admiral, this is clearly a human trick. We can't trust them." "Stand down, Sub-Admiral Vex," Zorn commanded, though his voice lacked its usual authority. Vex ignored the order, turning to the crew members he'd been conferring with earlier. "Loyal soldiers of the Betazoid fleet, arm yourselves. We will not allow these humans to corrupt our mission." In an instant, the bridge erupted into chaos. Vex and his followers drew weapons, while other crew members scrambled for cover or looked to Zorn for guidance. Philip and Cora moved instinctively, their linked minds allowing them to react with uncanny precision. They dove behind a control console as energy blasts scorched the air above them. Through their shared consciousness, Philip felt Cora's fingers brush against her weapon, sensing her intention before she even moved. "Cover me!" Cora shouted, unnecessarily given their mental connection. Philip leaned out from behind the console, laying down suppressing fire as Cora sprinted towards Admiral Zorn, tackling him to safety behind a bulkhead. The Admiral's eyes widened in surprise, both at the human's actions and the rush of alien sensations flooding his mind through the brief contact. As the firefight intensified, Philip's armor continued to malfunction, sending out erratic pulses that affected the Betazoids in unpredictable ways. Some of Vex's followers dropped their weapons, overwhelmed by waves of pleasure, while others fought with increased ferocity. Philip and Cora moved in perfect synchronization, covering each other's blind spots and anticipating each other's moves. Their shared consciousness allowed them to navigate the chaos of the bridge with preternatural grace, outmaneuvering Vex's less coordinated team. Just as they seemed to be gaining the upper hand, a stray shot struck Philip's armor squarely in the chest. The impact sent a massive surge through the neural link, overwhelming both Philip and Cora with its intensity. They cried out in unison, their minds reeling from the overload of sensation. Instinctively, they reached for each other, their hands clasping as they sought to stabilize the connection. The moment their skin made contact, something unprecedented occurred. Their minds, already linked, seemed to merge completely. Human and Betazoid consciousness fused into a single hybrid awareness that encompassed both their experiences and knowledge. The effect was explosive. A powerful psychic shockwave erupted from their joined forms, rippling outward through the ship and beyond, reaching the entire Betazoid fleet. The wave washed over every Betazoid it touched, temporarily overwhelming their senses with the combined human Betazoid perspective. On the bridge, the fighting ceased abruptly as both Zorn's loyalists and Vex's rebels collapsed, incapacitated by the psychic event. For a moment, an eerie stillness fell over the ship. As the effects of the shockwave began to subside, Philip and Cora found themselves changed by the experience. Their minds, though no longer fully merged, retained a deep understanding of each other's species. They turned to face Admiral Zorn, who was slowly regaining his composure. The Admiral's silver eyes were wide with wonder as he looked at the human Betazoid pair. I felt your worlds, your people. I understand now. Before Zorn could continue, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Philip's armor, pushed beyond its limits by the psychic event, was now in critical failure. The power core pulsed erratically, each surge sending waves of pain through Philip's body. "We need to get you out of that armor," Cora said, her voice tight with concern. As they grappled with this new crisis, a communication alert sounded on the bridge. General Stone's voice filled the air, tense but controlled. "This is General Stone of the Earth Defense Fleet. We've detected unusual energy readings from your ship. What's your status, Jenkins?" Philip opened his mouth to respond, but another surge from his armor left him gasping. Cora stepped forward, her hands still clasped tightly with Philip's. "General Stone, this is Intelligence Officer Cora of the Betazoid Fleet. We've achieved a breakthrough, but we need immediate assistance. Requesting permission to dock with a team of engineers and medical personnel." There was a pause, heavy with the weight of centuries of conflict and mistrust. Then Stone's voice returned, cautious but will-powered. "Permission granted. Our team will board in 5 minutes. This better be worth it, Officer Cora." As the human delegation prepared to board, Philip and Cora exchanged a look of mingled hope and apprehension. The fate of both their species now hung in the balance, with the next few hours likely to determine the course of human-Betazoid relations for generations to come. Philip's armor emitted another alarming series of beeps, reminding them of the immediate danger they faced. As they waited for the human engineers to arrive, Philip and Cora stood at the center of the bridge, their hands still joined, a living symbol of the unprecedented connection between their two species. The door to the bridge slid open, revealing Dr. Elena Rodriguez and her team of human engineers. Their eyes widened as they took in the scene before them. The incapacitated Betazoid crew, the signs of recent combat, and at the center of it all, Philip and Cora, linked both physically and mentally. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, her face a mask of professional concern as she assessed Philip's condition. "Let's get you out of that armor, soldier," she said, her voice calm despite the tension in the air. "This is going to be delicate work." As the human team began the precarious process of deactivating Philip's armor, Admiral Zorn approached, his silver eyes filled with a new understanding. "Perhaps," he said softly, "it's time we talked about peace." Peace. As Admiral Zorn's words hung in the air, the atmosphere on the bridge shifted palpably. The potential for a new era of understanding between humans and Betazoids seemed within reach, but the immediate crisis of Philip's malfunctioning armor demanded urgent attention. Dr. Rodriguez and her team moved swiftly, their hands steady as they worked to deactivate the unstable power core. Philip gritted his teeth, waves of pain coursing through his body with each erratic pulse. Cora stood nearby, her hands still clasped tightly in his, their shared link allowing her to experience echoes of his discomfort. "Almost there," Dr. Rodriguez muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. With a final series of precise movements, she disconnected the power core. The armor's alarming beeps faded, and Philip let out a long, shaky breath. As the human engineers helped Philip out of his armor, Admiral Zorn conferred quietly with his senior staff. The Betazoid leader's silver eyes kept darting back to Philip and Cora, a mix of curiosity and concern evident in his gaze. Once free of the malfunctioning suit, Philip stumbled slightly, feeling oddly vulnerable without its familiar weight. Cora steadied him, and as their skin made contact again, A surge of shared sensation flowed between them. Dr. Rodriguez noticed the reaction and frowned. The neural link between you two, it seems to have stabilized somehow. I've never seen anything like it. Before she could elaborate, alarms blared throughout the ship, their shrill sound cutting through the tense atmosphere on the bridge. Admiral Zorn whirled towards his communications officer, demanding a report. "Sir," the officer responded, his purple skin paling slightly, "we're receiving a transmission from the battlecruiser Novan. It's Commander Lysera. She claims to have taken control of the ship." A hush fell over the bridge as a holographic image flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Commander Lysera. Her eyes blazed with fanatical intensity as she spoke. "Admiral Zorn, you have betrayed our people by entertaining these human filth," she spat. "I speak for those still loyal to Sub-Admiral Vex and our true cause. Release Vex immediately and resume hostilities against Earth, or we will destroy both your ship and the human delegation." General Stone, who had been observing the situation quietly until now, stepped forward. "This is an internal Betazoid matter. Perhaps it would be best if we withdrew." "No," Philip interrupted, his voice hoarse but determined. He exchanged a quick glance with Cora, feeling a surge of shared commitment through their link. "We can help." Cora nodded, understanding Philip's intention without the need for words. "Admiral Zorn, General Stone, we have a proposal. Our neural link, it gives us an advantage. We can infiltrate the Novan and neutralize the threat." Admiral Zorn's silver eyes widened. "What you're suggesting is incredibly dangerous. The Novan's crew are all trained telepaths. Even with your unique connection, you'd be at a severe disadvantage." Dr. Rodriguez, who had been listening intently, suddenly snapped her fingers. "Not necessarily. I have some experimental neural enhancers in my kit. They were designed to amplify telepathic signals for research purposes, but they might just give you the edge you need." General Stone frowned. "This is all highly irregular. Jenkins, are you certain about this?" Philip nodded, feeling Cora's unwavering support through their link. "We are, sir. It may be our best chance to dedication this peacefully." As the leaders conferred, Dr. Rodriguez worked quickly to outfit Philip and Cora with the neural enhancers. The small devices adhered to their temples, humming softly as they activated. "Remember," Dr. Rodriguez cautioned, "these are prototypes. We don't know exactly how they'll interact with your existing link. Be prepared for intense sensations." With a final nod to Admiral Zorn and General Stone, Philip and Cora made their way to a small stealth shuttle. As they approached the Novan, the full weight of their mission settled upon them. They were about to infiltrate a ship full of hostile telepaths, armed with nothing but their wits and their unprecedented mental connection. The shuttle slipped past the Novan's perimeter defenses, attaching itself to a rarely used maintenance airlock. As Philip and Cora prepared to breach the hull, they felt the neural enhancers kick in. Suddenly, their awareness of each other expanded exponentially. Every thought, every sensation became a shared experience. Moving in perfect unison, they entered the Novan. The corridors were dimly lit, emergency lighting casting eerie shadows. Through their enhanced link, Philip and Cora could sense the presence of nearby Betazoid crew members, their minds a chaotic swirl of tenacity and fear. As they encountered the first group of guards, Philip and Cora moved with uncanny precision. Their movements were fluid, almost dance-like, as they incapacitated the surprised Betazoids without raising an alarm. Each action was perfectly coordinated, their shared consciousness allowing them to anticipate and complement each other's moves flawlessly. They advanced deeper into the ship, their progress swift but not without cost. The neural enhancers pushed their connection to new limits, blurring the lines between their individual identities. Memories began to bleed together. Philip found himself recalling details of Cora's childhood on Beta Z, while Cora experienced flashes of Philip's military training on Earth. As they neared the bridge, they encountered heavier resistance. A squad of Betazoid security personnel opened fire, forcing Philip and Cora to take cover behind a bulkhead. The intensity of the firefight caused the neural enhancers to surge, sending a flood of shared sensations cascading through their linked minds. For a moment, Philip couldn't tell where he ended and Cora began. Their thoughts, fears, and dedication merged into a single, unified consciousness. With this new level of connection came an even deeper understanding of each other's capabilities. Moving as one, they emerged from cover. Their actions were a blur of perfect coordination, Philip laying down suppressing fire while Cora executed a series of acrobatic maneuvers, closing the distance to their attackers. Within seconds, the Betazoid security team lay unconscious at their feet. Panting heavily, Philip and Cora paused at the entrance to the bridge. Through the door, they could hear Commander Lysera's voice, taut with anger, as she issued her final ultimatum to Admiral Zorn's flagship. "This is it," Philip thought, the words echoing in Cora's mind as clearly as if he had spoken them aloud. "Together," Cora's thought replied, suffused with a mix of grit and affection that made Philip's heart race. As one, they breached the bridge, their merged consciousness allowing them to process and react to the chaotic scene with inhuman speed. Commander Lysera turned, her eyes widening in shock at the intruders who had made it past her defenses. In that crucial moment, as Lysera's hand moved towards the weapon controls, Philip and Cora acted on pure instinct. They channeled their combined mental energy through the neural enhancers, creating a localized psychic pulse that radiated outward. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Lysera and her bridge crew collapsed, their minds overloaded by the unprecedented psychic attack. As the last of the rogue Betazoids slumped to the floor, Philip and Cora stood alone on the bridge, their mission accomplished. But as the adrenaline of the moment faded, they found themselves grappling with a new challenge. The intense mental merger had left them disoriented, their individual memories and personalities blurred together like watercolors on a canvas. As they moved to secure the bridge and disable the Novan's weapons, Philip found himself using Betazoid technical knowledge he had never learned, while Cora instinctively fell into Earth military protocols she had never been trained in. They completed their tasks in silence, each trying to sort through the jumble of shared experiences and emotions that now filled their minds. As they waited for Admiral Zorn's security forces to arrive, they turned to face each other, their eyes meeting in a gaze of mingled wonder and apprehension. "What happens now?" Philip asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Cora shook her head slightly, her expression a mirror of Philip's own uncertainty. "I don't know, but whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridors of the Novan, Philip and Cora stood side by side, their hands instinctively finding each other once again. They had succeeded in their mission, but the true impact of their unprecedented bond was only beginning to unfold. As Admiral Zorn's security forces secured the Novan, Philip and Cora were escorted back to the flagship for debriefing. In the days that followed, their unprecedented neural link became the subject of intense scrutiny and fascination. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, along with a team of human and Betazoid scientists, conducted a series of tests to understand the nature and extent of their connection. "The implications of this bond are staggering," Dr. Rodriguez announced during a pivotal meeting with Admiral Zorn, General Stone, and key representatives from both species. "We believe it could be the key to fostering true understanding between our peoples." General Stone leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "What exactly are you proposing, Doctor?" Dr. Rodriguez's eyes glimmered with excitement. "A groundbreaking experiment. We want to use Philip and Cora's neural bond as a template to create a limited number of human Betazoid pairs. This could enhance diplomatic relations and cultural understanding between our species in ways we never thought possible." The room erupted into a flurry of whispers and exclamations. Admiral Zorn's silver eyes widened, reflecting a mix of hope and apprehension. "And you believe this can be done safely?" "With proper precautions, yes," Dr. Rodriguez nodded. "We've designed a device we're calling the empathic bridge. It's capable of facilitating temporary mental connections between carefully selected volunteers from both species." As the discussion continued, Philip and Cora exchanged glances, their shared consciousness buzzing with a mixture of anticipation and unease. They could sense the weight of the decision that was about to be made, a decision that would irrevocably alter the course of human Betazoid relations. Weeks later, Philip and Cora found themselves aboard a neutral space station orbiting a gas giant in a nearby star system. The station hummed with activity as human and betazoid scientists worked side by side, preparing for the first trials of the empathic bridge. As they walked through the station's curved corridors, Philip felt a familiar pull towards Cora. Their proximity seemed to intensify their bond, sending waves of shared sensation coursing through their bodies. He reached out, his fingers brushing against hers, and felt a jolt of electricity at the contact. Cora gasped softly, her purple eyes meeting his. "It's getting stronger," she whispered, her voice a mix of wonder and concern. Before Philip could respond, Dr. Rodriguez approached, her tablet in hand. "Ah, there you are," she said, her gaze flicking between them. "We're ready for the next round of tests. But first, I need to ask, have you noticed any changes in your bond?" Philip nodded, trying to find the words to describe the intense pull he felt towards Cora. "It's like a magnetic force. When we're close, it's almost overwhelming." Dr. Rodriguez's fingers flew across her tablet, recording their observations. "Fascinating. We'll need to monitor this closely. Now, if you'll follow me, we have some new volunteers ready to try the empathic bridge." As they entered the main laboratory, Philip and Cora saw two figures seated in specially designed chairs, a human male and a betazoid female. The empathic bridge device, a sleek headset with pulsing blue lights, rested on a nearby console. Dr. Rodriguez began the procedure, carefully placing the headsets on the volunteers. As the device hummed to life, Philip and Cora watched intently, their own link allowing them to sense the fledgling connection forming between the human and betazoid. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights bathed the laboratory in an eerie glow. Dr. Rodriguez rushed to a nearby communication panel, her face paling as she listened to the incoming message. "We're under attack," she announced, her voice tight with tension. "Two separate groups, human extremists and betazoid hardliners. They've disabled our communications and are converging on the central hub." Philip's military training kicked in immediately. "We need to evacuate the civilians and secure the empathic bridge," he said, already moving towards the exit. Cora nodded, her mind in perfect sync with his. "I can sense them," she said, her eyes unfocused as she reached out with her telepathic abilities. "Their minds are filled with hate and fear. They want to destroy everything we've worked for." As they raced through the corridors, Philip and Cora encountered panicked staff members fleeing towards the escape pods. Using their enhanced link, they coordinated their efforts, guiding people to safety while avoiding the advancing attackers. They reached the central hub just as the first explosions rocked the station. Through the reinforced windows, Philip saw a group of humans in combat gear, led by a tall, scarred man with cold eyes. On the opposite side, a squad of betazoids in sleek battlesuits approached, their faces set in iron will. "We're out of time," Cora said, her voice strained. "They're going to breach the hub any second." Philip's gaze fell on the empathic bridge device, still securely stored in its protective case. An idea formed in his mind, immediately understood by Cora through their link. "It's risky," she said, already moving towards the device. "It's our only chance," Philip replied, helping her set up the equipment. As the sounds of battle drew nearer, Philip and Cora connected themselves to the empathic bridge. The surge of mental energy was immediate and overwhelming, threatening to merge their consciousness completely. Fighting to maintain their individual identities, they reached out with their enhanced abilities, projecting a powerful message of peace and understanding towards the minds of both human and betazoid attackers. The strain was immense. Philip felt as if his mind was being stretched to its breaking point. Beside him, Cora trembled with the effort, her hand gripping his tightly. As the doors to the central hub began to buckle under the combined assault, Philip and Cora poured every ounce of their shared strength into one final, desperate projection. Their message carried with it not just words, but the full weight of their experiences, the fear, the pain, and ultimately the hope that had brought them to this moment. The doors burst open and the attackers poured into the hub, weapons raised. But as the wave of mental energy washed over them, they faltered. Confusion replaced rage in their eyes as they struggled to process the powerful emotions and memories flooding their minds. Philip and Cora held on, their bodies shaking with the effort of maintaining the connection. As their consciousness began to blur, merging into a single unified entity, they clung to the hope that their sacrifice would be enough to turn the tide and preserve the fragile peace between their peoples. In that critical moment, suspended between individual identity and complete merger, Philip and Cora waited to see if their daring plan would succeed, or if the galaxy would once again be plunged into the chaos of interspecies war. Conflict. As the attackers burst into the central hub, Philip and Cora activated the empathic bridge device. A surge of mental energy coursed through them, their consciousness expanding beyond the confines of their physical bodies. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Their minds reached out, enveloping the entire station in a powerful psychic field. Philip gasped as he felt his sense of self begin to blur, merging with Cora's thoughts and memories. He clung to their shared experiences, using them as an anchor to maintain some semblance of individual identity. Through their expanded awareness, they sensed the approaching forces. Commander Graves, the scarred leader of the Terran Purity Front, stormed forward with his team. On the opposite side, Betazoid hardliners advanced with cold willpower. Both groups were driven by fear and hatred, their minds closed to the possibility of peace. Philip and Cora focused their combined will, projecting a flood of emotions and memories towards the attackers. Commander Graves stumbled, his fierce expression faltering as images of Cora's childhood on the Betazoid homeworld flashed through his mind. He saw her first day at school, felt the warmth of her parents' embrace, experienced the wonder of her first telepathic connection. Simultaneously, the Betazoid extremists reeled as they were bombarded with vivid scenes from Earth's history. They witnessed humanity's struggles and triumphs, felt the exhilaration of the first moon landing, and experienced the joy of a family gathering on a warm summer evening. The attacking forces hesitated, confusion replacing their earlier commitment. Some dropped their weapons, overwhelmed by the sudden empathy forced upon them. Others, like Commander Graves, fought against the intrusion, their deeply ingrained prejudices battling against this new understanding. In the laboratory behind them, Dr. Rodriguez and her team worked frantically to stabilize the empathic bridge. Alarms blared as the device's power output spiked to unprecedented levels. "It's broadcasting across vast distances," Dr. Rodriguez shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. "The signal's reaching Earth and the Betazoid homeworld." Philip and Cora barely registered her words, lost in the torrent of shared consciousness. They sensed millions of minds opening to their influence, humans and Betazoids alike experiencing flashes of each other's lives. The strain on their bodies intensified. Philip felt as if his very essence was being torn apart, fragmented across countless minds. Beside him, Cora trembled, her grip on his hand weakening. With their last reserves of strength, they poured their deepest emotions into a final, powerful message. They shared their journey from mistrust to understanding, the beauty of their differences, and the strength found in unity. The raw honesty of their experiences cut through the remaining barriers of hatred and fear. The effect on the station was immediate. The attacking forces lowered their weapons, many sinking to their knees as they grappled with their newfound empathy. Commander Graves, his face streaked with tears, slowly placed his weapon on the ground and raised his hands in surrender. As the crisis on the station purposed, Philip and Cora's consciousness began to fragment. Their shared vision expanded one last time, giving them a glimpse of the impact their actions had wrought. On Earth and the Betazoid homeworld, people embraced in the streets, centuries of mistrust crumbling in the face of true understanding. With their mission accomplished, Philip and Cora's grip on consciousness finally slipped. As darkness closed in, Philip felt a sense of peace, knowing that their sacrifice had not been in vain. His last thought before succumbing to unconsciousness was of Cora, their minds still entwined even as awareness faded. The empathic bridge powered down, its purpose fulfilled. In the sudden silence, Dr. Rodriguez rushed to the fallen heroes, barking orders to her medical team. As Philip and Cora were rushed to the station's medical bay, reports began flooding in from across known space, heralding the dawn of a new era in human-Betazoid relations. In the days that followed, Philip and Cora's condition remained critical. Dr. Rodriguez and her team worked tirelessly, using every resource at their disposal to stabilize the pair's neural patterns. The unique nature of their bond posed unprecedented challenges, but the combined efforts of human and betazoid medical expertise slowly yielded results. On the fifth day, as news of the global shift in perspective continued to dominate headlines across two worlds, Philip's eyes fluttered open. He found himself in a sterile medical bay, the soft beep of monitoring equipment filling the air. As his vision cleared, he turned his head to see Cora in the adjacent bed, her purple eyes meeting his with a mixture of relief and lingering concern. "We did it," Cora whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. Philip nodded, a weak smile tugging at his lips. "Together," he replied, echoing their shared thought from what felt like a lifetime ago. As they began to take stock of their changed reality, both Philip and Cora realized that while the overwhelming nature of their neural link had subsided, a subtle connection remained. They could still sense each other's presence, a comforting thread of shared consciousness linking their minds. Dr. Rodriguez entered the room, her face a mask of professional concern overlaying obvious excitement. "You two have some recovering to do," she said, checking their vital signs. "But when you're ready, there's a universe out there eager to thank you." Philip and Cora exchanged a glance, sensing the weight of responsibility and possibility that lay before them. As they began their recovery, news broadcasts played quietly in the background, showing scenes of humans and betazoids coming together in ways that would have been unthinkable just days before. The Empathic Bridge Project, now carefully regulated and voluntary, continued under Dr. Rodriguez's supervision. It became a cornerstone of diplomatic relations, allowing select individuals from both species to experience deep, temporary connections that further strengthened the alliance. As Philip watched a human and betazoid ambassador shake hands on the view screen, he felt a surge of hope for the future. He turned to Cora, their shared link humming with potential, and knew that their journey was nowhere near the end. The stars beckoned, promising new adventures and challenges as they worked to build a lasting peace between their peoples.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.